All right, COBEC members, I'm here today with one of the founders of COBEC and who has been incredibly involved for a long time, Dr. Betty Flinchum. And we're going to do something here that we may do with a number of people over time, which is just kind of have a quick little 3-question interview to try to know more about the members, know more about COBEC, and really kind of have an idea about where we need to go from here. So Betty, let me ask you real quick, when you look at the founding of COBEC, can you tell me why was COBEC founded?
Well, I always love talking about COBEC, Wes, because it's one of the joys of my life. I spent over 30 years working there, and I think COBEC really made more contributions to the educational development of beliefs than I even realized. And so let me tell you how we started this organization way back in the 80s. After Belize got its independence, it was listed by the U.S. as one of those nations who would receive affiliation grants. And so USIA and USAID began to pump money into Belize. And several U.S. universities, applied for those affiliation grants. 3 of us were successful. Murray State, Western Kentucky had a combination grant, and UNF had one. And so we worked in Belize for about 3 years on those grants. And then we were very pleased with everything that had been accomplished. And we were trying to figure out how we could continue this relationship with Belize. And so we began to talk about establishing perhaps a group, a binational consortium, as it turned out. And we then began to figure out how it could be expanded to all the tertiary level institutions in Belize and to become a binational conference or some kind of affiliation of that type. Well, we came up, of course, with the Consortium for Belize Educational Cooperation, COBEC for short, and all of the institutions in Belize, tertiary level institutions, signed that document with the U.S. institutions who were working in Belize, and that was in 1989. So that's how the group of us who had been working in Belize on those grants became interested in expanding and making it available to all of the educational schools in Belize.
That's a great moment right there, and really appreciate all your work on that. When you look back at all of your work in COBEC, do you have a particular moment that you most value? What's your most valued moment of working within COBEC?
Well, I think the things I'm most proud of are those moments when UNF contributed something to COBEC. And the things that stand out, the first thing in those early days, we found that the students who came up to study in U.S. institutions had to start with freshman level courses because we wouldn't accept anything transferred from Belize. So UNF started an articulation program, which then, of course, required us to get catalogs from every university so that we could assess the courses and everything. And they didn't have catalogs at that time. So we partnered with those schools and developed desktop, used our desktop publishing to get sort of catalogs or bulletins for every tertiary level institution in Belize. And I still think some of those are being used to this day. So that was a very important thing. And once UNF established that, then other COBEC institutions could also get that. And the students could come in as juniors. And it really saved, of course, a lot of money for those students from Belize. Another one was the in-state tuition that we were, UNF was able to get for the Belizeans. And that was through our Latin American scholarship with the state of Florida. But as soon as we got it, the other COBEC institutions said, oh, well, UNF can do that. And so it became the COBEC scholarship, which is really just in-state tuition for Belizeans. And of course, we all had work study programs for them when they came up. So that made a lot of difference to the number of Belizeans who could study in US institutions. And the last thing that I have to mention is our master's program. And that program not only gave the homebound and those students who couldn't come to the US for their studies, it gave them an opportunity to get a master's degree. And that degree was important because they could then use that degree for future advanced studies. And some of them got a PhD from that. But it also was important because we accepted UB and UCB degrees, even though other institutions had not considered them accredited. Obviously, they were not accredited by US bodies, but the fact that we accepted them, and not only that, they achieved the master's degree, was significant in that other universities then were able to do the same thing, because it validated their abilities and their studies.
Yeah, that's great. And I can tell you from someone who came in after that the impact of all of those initiatives over time have been very important to the development of the education system in Belize. I run into people all the time about, that talk about the impact that you have and Pritchie Smith has and COBEC in general. And so that's really good. But that kind of brings me to the third question here, Betty, is that where does COBEC need to go from here? What initiatives do you think would be important for it to pursue?
Well, I think it should continue some of these things I've just discussed. For example, the ability for students, for Belize students to get degrees from the US institutions and make it possible for that to happen. Another thing I would like is COBEC to get into the business of on-demand kinds of professional development in Belize. I mean, it's now that we have the capability of doing all the Zoom programs and other programs, we can instantly respond to some kind of program that Belizeans want. Also, I think it would be important to continue the networking that we have set up. So that I don't want to give up the in-state, the binational, in-country, in conferences, because that was one thing that kept us going. We really loved working together, and we loved meeting. And I think also we need to get those students who receive COBEC scholarships or other scholarships and who are living and working in Belize, we need to get them involved in COBEC in some way. And I think all of the kinds of new technologies that we have should provide instant access to some problems that we need to address post-pandemic situation. Solutions might be one example we could do, and several other things that Belize might need that we could respond to instantly.
Okay. Very good. Well, Betty, thank you for your insight into both the founding of COBEC and some great moments that has happened with COBEC and where it needs to go from here. Certainly appreciate the time that you've taken with me during this interview.
Well, thank you, Wes. I always love talking about the joy of working with the Belizean people over these many 30 years. And I do appreciate the opportunity.